How's it going, everyone? And I'm your host, Victor Herrera. Today, I'm joined by a very grateful guest to have him on. I'm extremely grateful to have him on. A very surprising guest, but many around the area wouldn't say they're surprised what's going down in Lytle, Texas at all. Coach Mike Trevino, how are you doing today?
We're doing good, man. We're definitely blessed to be in the position we're in right now. Not very many, including myself, expected us to be 4-0. About midway through the season, but it's been an unbelievable journey, and we're not done yet, man. The best is still yet to come.
And you took over. You're the head base football coach over there in Lytle, and the boys athletic coordinator. Is this when you got into coaching, was it to become what you are now, or was there maybe another sport that you maybe have wanted to coach and you just kind of fell in love with coaching football more?
Growing up, I was always a multi-sport athlete. Started playing t-ball since I was 4 years old. Uh, and over the course of my young youth years, and started playing football, and up in middle school started playing football. That was the first time I ever touched the football field. So baseball was my first love. And then once I was able to get into high school, that's where I started kind of feeling, okay, where do I feel most comfortable? Where can I benefit from? And just the team aspect, man, the team aspect of being around, your friends and coaches that were leading you every day allowed me to appreciate, the time and efforts that everybody puts into the sport. And then once I graduated, I went on to pursue, both football and baseball in college. I tried to walk on A&M Kingsville for both football and baseball. Went to the walk-on tryouts. Obviously, God had other plans, and then ended up moving up here to UTSA in the fall of 2012. That's where I finished my college career, and it was during those moments when I first went to UTSA where I became a part of the UTSA baseball program as a student athletic trainer. And that's when I started to fall in love with coaching because of the head coach that was there at the time. His name was Jason Marshall. Was a former Texas A&M baseball player, and he had been at UTSA for a long time. I want to say about 16 years. And he was the head baseball coach that allowed me to come on, part of the baseball training staff. And I almost became like an undergraduate assistant coach at the same time while I was doing athletic training. And it was just the love approach that he created there, just involving everybody, including everybody. And I was like, man, what a leader, right? What a selfless person that just appreciated and valued everybody. I was like, man, that kind of what gave me the love to, okay, maybe I should pursue coaching, because I changed my major like 3 times. I went from physical therapy to athletic training to finally into fully committing myself to kinesiology and pursuing my teaching and coaching certifications. And so definitely that moment in memory, what I always talk about, happened when I was in college, between the years of 2012 and 2016 when I was up here at UTSA.
What happened along the way that made you kind of gear more towards the football side of things? Because you were a defensive coordinator at Holmes as well, and so obviously you have that niche, that little niche for football, and for starting late, you knew and understood the game. Kind of what pushed you more in there versus the baseball route?
I think when I started to find a love for football, it was almost related to just life in general. We were, I was raised up, religion, but not really non-denominational like I am now. And so being born and raised a Catholic, there was kind of protocols to follow. There was a book to be read, every Sunday at church. There was, CCD, as we called it, every Wednesday to go to youth groups. And I was like, maybe the structure kind of allowed me to follow in to, what football meant, because everything has to be structured and organized within a football program. Um, but also just being able to also see other people pursue, the product that they're producing on the field, as far as culture development, leadership development, what it is that they're building when you see it from someone else. And that's the one thing that helped me was, man, I want to kind of build something special just like that, and I always relate to the likes of Dabo Sweeney, right? PJ Fleck, the other head coaches that are doing remarkable things in college. And, nothing better than Texas high school football, man, to kind of, I always say, leave a footprint on kids' hearts, and that's kind of what we preach here in our program is how can we leave a footprint on art? And that's kind of where I wanted to fall in love with the process of, hey, how many kids that can we get a hold of today? Regardless of where we're at, whether you're an assistant coach, a head coach, a student manager, a trainer, everybody has an effect and an impact on people, and that's our focus every day. We love people. We don't love players. We love people because everybody is a person just like we are, and so that's our daily approach. And that's why in a football setting, with a group of 50, 60, 70 kids in your program, it allows you to do that on a daily basis. And football is a year-round thing. It's a 365-day a year, push to create something special, build a foundation. And that's the one thing we pry on. We dig deep here, and the dig deep, the DIG stands for develop, impact, and guide. And that's what we do on those are three big pillars, in our program. And that's why, again, the shovel that we carry out on Friday nights, is a huge representation of what we do every day.
You mentioned some very high named coaches. One, Dabo Sweeney, which I can now say, go Tigers. I'll be starting there next fall for my master's. So I like that reference. But you've also, how you just stated, been around very, very strong coaches at UTSA. All right, coach. So you talked about other coaches that you've been around, the UTSA baseball coach, and like the likes of Dabo Sweeney and PJ Fleck that you follow closely. What makes a good coach is you know your strengths, but you also know your weaknesses. Now, what you've done in Lytle is remarkable, and that's not just because it's Lytle, a 1-9 team last year. I think in any setting when you can come in and make that impact right away, it's remarkable. And as a coach and as a head football coach, what is your strength that you rely on, or your strengths that are your strengths that you make sure to play towards those to put yourself in the best possible setup to be successful as a whole program?
The biggest thing for us, Victor, every day, man, we're a love first, relationship driven program, and that's where it started. It's hard, especially with me. This is barely my 6th year in teaching and coaching as an educator in the state of Texas, and it's what an unbelievable opportunity for me to lead a program at such a young age. I'm only 31 years old, but age is just a number, man. It can happen anytime, and that's why if you just do things right, if you take the right approach, and when I step foot here on campus, in May, as the head football coach, the biggest thing and number one thing that I told myself is it's all about relationships. How can it go put a hand, and an arm around a kid and tell them, hey, I got you, and that's where it starts, and like I told you earlier, man, it's all about leaving footprints on a heart. And the one thing that we really pride ourselves on is the 3 H's, a handshake, hug, and a high five. That's the one thing that we try to do every day, and I call them EGBs. They're energy giving behaviors. And so how many of those can we produce that also we see positive results out of? So ever since we stepped foot on this campus together, to create a foundation that we're basically leaning on right now mid-season, that's what it is. It's a love first, relationship driven program. And I think if you take any other approach than that, then you're gonna have some challenges along the way trying to steal a kid's heart. And our coaching philosophy, man, says it all. We're gonna serve their heart, not their talent. And that's the number one thing. That's the number one message that I tell parents, that I tell the kids, that I tell my coaching staff here. Those are non-negotiables right there. So when we can serve a heart rather than a talent, we know we're doing things the right way.
Absolutely. I love your mindset because you're not necessarily looking for the most talented players. You're not necessarily looking for the most gifted players. You want to connect on that relationship base. And I'm sure you had a lot of relationships along the way, even though 6 years may not seem a lot. You've made a lot of relationships within those times and seen some things within those 6 years. Has there ever been a moment, and if so, what was that moment where you're like, you know what, I could be a head coach? Because some guys, they're just better coordinators. They're better in one specific area versus kind of bringing a whole team together. Was there ever a moment where you're like, I can lead something and have my own?
I think it all started when my wife led me to a very special church of ours, man. We're non-denominational now. And now we go to Community Bible Church, which is off 1604 and 281 there in San Antonio. And it allowed me to create a connection with the pastor that speaks there. Pastor Ed Newton. He was so dynamic in his messages, but relatable. Why? Because of his power of communication, the way he communicates with just the people there, and also his impact using words of alliteration, things that rhyme and flow together. So, for example, we really pride ourselves on love, lead, and listen. Those are 3 L's. It's alliteration, but it sticks. I guarantee you, people will never forget that. So that's the one thing that helped me is, okay, how am I going to make things stick? How am I going to communicate with people, especially players and student athletes that are, between the
Yeah, we're
yeah.
good.
It just goes back to the energy, effort, enthusiasm also. So when you can deliver a message with energy, when you can deliver a message with effort, and you can deliver a message with enthusiasm, and it allows people to not only just hear you but listen to you. There's a difference between both. And so that's the one thing that we really try to leave an impression on people is, hey, I'm going to grab your heart some way, somehow, and I'm going to do it by the energy, effort, enthusiasm, and the love, lead, and listen approach.
I like it. I like it a lot. I won't lie. I wish more people had that approach, because kind of a good segue in our next thing. We live in a day and age where a lot of people, and you're a young coach, a lot of young people, they want it now. They don't want to wait for it. They don't want to work for it. And there's even probably some older coaches who would have looked at Lytle and even some first time coaches and been like, yeah, I want to go somewhere where I'm gonna have the success right away. I don't want to gamble on this. What intrigued you? I know you spent some time there before in your career, but what intrigued you to take this 1-9 team to make it into what you have?
It's about moving mountains, Victor. Moving mountains. How can we move a mountain? And it kind of leans it back into our message last week. We faced Natalia in our Legacy Bowl rivalry game last week, and we were 3-0 and they were 0-3. But they had a tough schedule and they knew they were going to be ready, because every year for the last 8 years, Lytle hasn't won that football game. So that's where the message came about. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna tell the kids on Monday, we got to move this mountain. It's time to move the mountain. It's been 8 years since this mountain been moved. It's time now. And that's kind of what I love, the obstacles, the oppositions, the adversities. I'm like, bring them on. That's what we want. That's what we're made about. That's how we build our foundation. We can't find the easy way. We can't find the lighter way. We're gonna do hard things here. And like I tell the kids all the time, I want you to choose hard. Why? Because everything that we want is on the other side of hard. And so when we're able to have that approach and that growth mindset, I'm like, hey, bring on more challenges. Where are the speed bumps at? We're gonna find the speed bumps. We're not gonna go around them. We're gonna climb the mountain together. We're not gonna try to go find something greener and greater. Our grass is right here. This is the grass that we have to water. We can't go worry about watering someone else's grass. We gotta water ours. And that's the only way when we plant seeds that they're gonna bloom. So I love the oppositions. I love the challenges. I love the adversities. Why? Because we're built from that. And that's the reason why I think we're having so fast of the success, that Lytle hasn't had in a long time. We're 4-0 for the first time since 2007, and looking to be 5-0 and rewrite history. That's what I look at. And that's what I tell the kids. I'm like, you're writing your own story right now. And what a story that God's allowing us to be a part of. So there's beauty, in hardship. There's beauty mishaps and mistakes, and I tell the kids all the time, mistakes are bruises, not tattoos. So when we make a mistake, guess what? It's going to fade away. And I always tell them, the next move we'll ever make, or the best move we'll ever make is our next one. So whenever there's a drop pass, hey, next ball, right? Whenever there's a bad play, hey, next play. Whenever there's a bad, moment, hey, next moment. That's why we really focus on having a windshield mentality. Why? Because the rearview mirror is smaller than our windshield. So, hey, it's always good to look back on memories and moments, but hey, keep your dreams bigger than your memories and your moments, because guess what? The best is yet to come.
That's something that I even feel would even benefit being coached at a very young age. That's kind of, I'm helping out my daughter's little 7-year-old softball team, and that's what I'm already telling them. Like, hey, deep breath when you're frustrated. Remember, it's the next play. And this approach that you've taken into coaching, some of the hardcore older guys would be like, oh, it's too soft. You got to be hard on them. And, you always want to find that equal balance. But one thing that while doing research for this interview that I saw is not only did your high school win, y'all basically y'all swept Natalia and all the grades. And all the football grades that y'all had, y'all swept them. Has this approach, do you feel like the approach you've taken into coaching and into Lytle has also allowed you to find success in 7th and 8th grade as well?
I believe so. Why? Because we try to vertically align everything from the youth program that just started back up, to our 7th and 8th grade groups and to our JV and varsity team. I want the terminology to be the same. I want the teaching to be the same. I want the relationship driven approach to be the same. The connection, the communication has to be the same. Why? Because if we say one thing, they're going to allow them to understand and realize that, hey, the pattern's the same way from the youth program all the way to the high school and the varsity level. So imagine, when we get 5th and 6th graders to become freshmen and sophomores, it's going to be easy. Why? Because they already understand what love, lead, and listen means. They already know what energy, effort, enthusiasm means. They already know we're going to serve hearts, not talents. And that's the one thing that I kind of brought in with me too is we don't punish kids through physical punishment. We punish them by removing privileges. So, for example, it's like taking your phone away when, your son or daughter mess up. I'm going to take a phone away because that's more meaningful to them rather than just, giving them a slap on the hand, and saying, hey, you're grounded. So that's the same approach I take as far as a discipline standpoint is I'm going to take away practice time. I'm going to remove your decals off your helmet. I'm going to move you to the JV or freshman locker room. Taking away privileges like that are meaningful. I'm not going to allow you to lift today. You're just going to spot because you're basically sinning in our program. And a sin for us in our program is you just missed the mark. We have 16 culture commandments that are posted. And if you miss the mark on one of those 16, that's how we define a sin in our program.
Could you share maybe your favorite one out of your 16 that you have for your team?
Make everybody feel like a somebody. That's one of them. And when you don't do that, I always tell people the only time you're able to look down on somebody is when you're picking them back up. That's the only time. And that's why, make everybody feel like a somebody. That's our goal every day. Regardless of you're just, a second string on the depth chart, regardless of you're just a scout team player or you're on the JV or you're just a 7th or 8th grader, everybody means something to this program. And, I'm speaking to myself right now. I'm preaching the messages. Sometimes I have to do a better job of, making sure I don't sin, but we all sin. And guess what? Those 16 culture commandments remind us every day of what's the most important thing, in our football program. That's why it's a great reminder when we see those things every day.
When creating these 16 culture commandments, was it kind of a multitude of your years, kind of what you saw and took from different places that you wanted to implement? Or did you sit down maybe with your wife and like, hey, kind of what do you think would be good to build off of? Kind of how'd you come up with that idea?
Stealing ideas, man. That's the same way I've kind of built this thing. Hey, I like this. Let me take this. Hey, I like this. Let me take this and let me make it my own. Right. There's a couple of things on there that I have created on my own, but majority of it is, oh man, I like what Dabo Sweeney just said. Let me write it down. Like the one of our rules, and I believe it's number 1, is sit in the first two rows of class. That's a culture commandment. Why? Because it creates engagement and empowerment. So when they're not sitting in the first two rows, it's a sin, right? Because I want them engaged and I want them to empower people around them. And so that's one of them on there. And that's where I got from Dabo Sweeney, because he has what they call Clemson commandments.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to use Clemson commandments. So I just changed it to culture commandments, and the where I got how you define a sin, which is just missed the mark, is I got that from the head football coach, Shane Beamer at South Carolina with the Gamecocks. That's how he defines a sin. So I was like, hey, guess what, man? I love it. So let me just use that. And so that's kind of where we gain our ideas from. But again, the dig deep, I created that just from just my life story, man, my testimony. That's what we got to do every single day. So the develop, impact, and guide, has been our three pillars that we lean on every week.
Your approach is definitely unique and special in the way you've gone about this, Lytle, taking over this job and this position and the impact that you've had. How much have you seen that impact the community as well?
Victor, I think when change was needed, and when I knew I got the call to be blessed with this opportunity, I was going to go in swinging. If I was going to strike out, I was going to strike out. I didn't care if it was an 0-2 count, or full count. I'm going all in. And I knew that I was going to lean on my foundation of the good Lord, because that's where it leans on every single day. And that's where my bucket is filled from every single day. And I'm like, I'm just going to be me. I don't want to try to be anybody else. I don't want to do things like they've been done. I want to do things differently. I want to do things here like it's never been done before. And I think that's where we really started to appreciate, the moments and memories that we started creating, from a coaching staff, from the kids to the community. And I just started, by just trying to be present at every event that we could possibly be at. My wife and I would always make plans to come out here and just go eat dinner, at the local mom and pop shops here. Why? Because we wanted to have our presence felt. Like, hey, we're just people too, we want to love up on you also. Who cares about the head coaching title? That doesn't mean anything. I want you to come in and be a part of our program. Come knock on our door. Come sit in our locker room. Just be inviting. That's all I wanted to do. So that's why I always say, when you're open and transparent about everything, it creates trust. Transparency creates trust. And that's the number one thing we did right off the bat. And that's what needed to be done. Why? Because I want people to be involved in this thing. I want people to celebrate the success, not only from what we're doing, but that's in the entire community. So right now, especially the position we're in, and the success we're having early on, it's not my success, it's ours. It's not me, it's us. It's not I, it's we. And that's the one thing that we really try to continue to dig for every single day. All right, man, where are the issues coming from? Hey, let's solve them right now. Let's talk to parents over the phone. Let me talk to parents one-on-one. Hey, if a parent wants to come talk about, one of their players, or if they want to, involve themselves in in our program some way, somehow, hey, I want to invite that. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it just allows people to be heard and valued. And that's the one thing that we try to do every day.
I really admire the fact that you go and eat in these little restaurants, because, some head coaches don't even live in the town and they don't really do anything in that town. It's like, so you're just here to take our tax money. Like, I've heard it before. So I know that's
Yeah.
what's been said. But, there's young coaches out there, and coaches in general, maybe somebody who's waited 30 years for their first head coaching job, or maybe somebody who's 5-6 years for their first head coaching job. If they're ever possibly presented with an opportunity like you had at Lytle, what would be your advice to them going into something that wasn't all what it should have been or could have been the year before and in the past, and kind of just how does their mindset need to be when going into that type of situation?
It's the love first, relationship driven approach, Victor. And I can't stress that enough, man. The biggest thing to me is I tried to create one-on-one opportunities with me and the former kids that have been here. just because I wanted to hear their heart. What are their needs? What are their wants? Same thing with the coaching staff. What are your needs? What are your wants? Because I want people to be heard and valued. Same thing with parents. And when you take the love first approach, and you can put an arm around a player and say, "Hey, man, I got you. Tell me exactly what you want and how you want things done, and you're going to help me build it." So the second I got here, I knew that was going to be a heavy task. Why? Because of the fact that there hadn't been much success since 2013, right? The last time, I think back in 2019 or 2020 during COVID, they did go 5-5, which they had a decent year. But the last 2 years, you go 0-10 and 1-9.
Mm-hmm.
So coming in here, especially with my inexperience, according to a lot of people coming in here, they're like, "Man, why are you hiring this guy?" We want someone who has created that success already. And I'm like, you know what? Just take a chance.
Yeah.
Take a chance. Take a chance. Why? Because we're gonna do things so much differently than everybody else does it. And I want you to see, and let me prove you right. I want to prove you right as to why you're hiring Mike Trevino as the head football coach here in Lytle. And regardless of that, man, I'm not gonna shrug my shoulders. I'm not gonna dust dirt off my shoulders or anything like that. It's these kids that are producing the positive, impactful results. But yes, we are loving and leading them every single day. And that's why when I can share a message with somebody and say, "Hey, go in there and just be you and do you," but try to do things differently than they've never been done there before, because that's how you create a spark. And this place has needed a spark, like this, and it's been a long time coming. And also attach yourself to somebody, man. Try to steal ideas. Try to look for and seek for those mentors, and advice from someone that you can trust. Because I'm on the phone almost every day with somebody that I trust and that I look up to, or that I've attached myself to, because there's things that I still don't know, what to do. Whether it comes to UIL policies and procedures, or things that have happened before, or documentation or paperwork stuff. I'm like, "Hey, man, I've never dealt with this before, so who do I call?" Well, I've got a number, to call right away. And it kind of helps me out, kind of develop that a process, to produce, things the right way.
You have such love in your heart for the kids and just people you come in contact in general. Whenever you communicate to kids, sometimes kids can feel like it's a little redundant. They got to hear it from somebody else at times. Do you change up the way you communicate with your kids from time to time, just to kind of keep them on their toes, just to keep them engaged? Are there little things that you stole that you feel have worked best for you?
I try to make sure that they never see me have a bad day. And there's times to where I wake up, my alarm goes off every morning at 3:45 in the morning. We're a morning practice football team, and there's days where I'm tired. But if we preach a message of feeding and fueling, that's the one thing that we tell the kids all the time. You have to try to feed and fuel somebody every day, because somebody's not 100% today. And sometimes that's me, and sometimes that's our coaching staff. Sometimes I feel 50% walking into the door, but sometimes I can't show that. But at the same time, the vulnerability and transparency, hey, guess what? I do have to show that, because they start to feed and fuel me. And that's why I say go fill up someone's bucket. So when we take that approach of transparency, I don't really have to change my tone of voice. I don't have to change my approach of love and leadership. Why? Because we're being transparent and vulnerable every single day. I don't need to lie to these kids saying, "Oh man, everything's fine and dandy." No, it's not. you know. So when you're able to do those things, or be like, "Hey, coach, I got you." Just the same way I put my arm around them and say, "Hey, I got you." Well, same thing that they're feeding me and fueling me with. They're saying, "Hey, coach, I got you." So there's not much change to that. And I always tell people, we don't have bad days. We have tough days. Never any day is not a bad day, man, because we still got breath in our lungs. We got a roof over our head. We're still doing what we love. It's just a tough day, and let's get through this tough day.
I like that. I've always heard the we don't have bad days, you have bad moments, but I like tough days. I won't lie, I'm gonna have to steal that one from you, coach, because I like that one a lot. To go ahead and close up this interview, I do have two more questions for you. One, the Lytle logo that you have on your shirt and your hat. Is that something you created?
It is. I think a lot of people missed the old skull. Uh, and I've always had a thing with the state of Texas, man. So when I was the head softball coach here from 2017 to 2020, I created the logo with the state of Texas and the LP. And I went ahead and put it on there. And I was like, you know what? Returning back to a place where it's special, that skull is special. Let me place the skull on top of the state of Texas. So I went ahead and I got brand new decals, that are chrome gold, and they look sharp, man. And that's the one thing that people loved about it. So we created our every logo on every shirt, on every hat, on everything that we do, and people seem to fall in love with it.
Yeah, well, I won't lie, I get Mike Leach vibes being from Lubbock. He was all about pirates and Mike Leach, exciting. You never know what you're gonna get. So
Yeah.
I like it. I feel the energy from Lytle through that logo. And lastly, coach, just kind of you touched on it, how your faith has led you to where you are and how you rely on it so much. Gratitude is something that we just don't make a big enough moments in our days. Like, we just don't show enough gratitude. And I'm right up there. I have to remind myself constantly. Coach, just what are 3 things that you're grateful for right now?
Man, my wife, man. My wife is my number one supporter. It's hard sometimes because I get emotional when I look to the side, from the sideline and see her with our 3-year-old son and our 3-month-old daughter, and just doing what she does, man. It's so well, and just the love that she has for this program. It's not mine, man. It's us together. I was just talking about that with her today. All these accolades and all this publicity that we're getting, with Lytle, it's great, man. It's awesome. Inspirational coach of the week for Dave Campbell's Texas high school football. Our players getting player of the week. The success we're having right now, it's unbelievable. But the support and the love that my wife just gives me, but also gives parents and gives the kids is unmatched, Victor. And that she's my rock, man. She's my rock, and I wouldn't trade her for the world, because the success that we're having is her success also. And she promotes our program just as much as I do, and I couldn't ask for anybody better. And the next one is obviously, the other things I'm grateful for, man, is just administration taking a chance on me. At just giving me a shot, to create something special here and build a foundation that's been needed here for a long time. And last but not least, man, is the good Lord above. Ever since I was born, I'm not supposed to be sitting in this chair. I've been through 4 major surgeries throughout my life. I've sinned throughout my life, and I was saved in February 26, 2017. That's when I regave my life back to Christ. And it was the best decision of my life, because I became a transformational person then. We were all so transactional before. What's in it for me? What can I get out of this? Where's my success? That's how I was, when everything in my life. And I hated myself for it. So when I was able to devote every single part of my life, every aspect of my life to the good Lord of what he's done, shoot, man, it's like endless blessings are coming. And that's why I always say the best is still yet to come, because he's always going to go to work for us every day. And, that's the one thing that we lean on in this program as well. We're not afraid to talk about it, and we're definitely not afraid to demonstrate love every single day as well. Why be afraid of it, man? That's the one thing that we're led by every single day. That's the reason why we're pulling off games 3-0. That's the reason why we moved the mountain this past week after 8 years. That's the reason why we're sitting 4-0. We're not afraid to talk about love, man. We're not afraid to demonstrate it any which way that we can. And, just to be in this position, it's unbelievable. It's unreal. And this is just God writing our story, man. He's got the pen and he's writing it down on paper every single day. And we're just following the path that he's created for us right now.
Well, I can understand why you got inspirational coach. I mean, I want to go play for Lytle right now if I could. So I completely understand. Coach, I appreciate you taking time and sitting here and talking with me. Is there anything that you felt like we may not have covered, or that you just want to say? This is kind of me turning the mic over to you at the end, just to say whatever you feel like is on your heart, or that you just want to say.
I just want just to thank you, Victor. just for everybody else also that's just allowing us to be publicized the way we are. Why? Because these kids deserve it, man. These kids deserve every single bit of it that they're getting right now. And so when we're able to promote our program, when we're able to promote our people, when we're able to promote our community, and we really harp on the love, lead, and listen approach, I just want people to understand that's what we do and that's what we're about, And I tell the kids all the time, I don't care what we do, I care how we do it, and that goes back to the energy, effort, enthusiasm. So I definitely appreciate you and everybody else that's allowing us to be put on a platform, to speak about, the heart of athletics and the heart of football in the great state of Texas, man. So I definitely appreciate you, and I thank you for this moment in memory that we're going to share for a long time.
Hey, no problem, Coach. Good luck this season and this week, and I'll be keeping up with y'all, and we'll definitely be posting kind of what the season turns out to be for the Pirates.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, Victor. Thank you very much, man. Dig deep, and God bless.